So today, very important subject matter. We're going to be talking about preferred returns. And in this business, the lifeline, if you are syndicating, right? If you're raising money from other people, the lifeline of your business is the job that you do and the returns that you give to those investors. Because if you give them good returns, if you give them a pleasurable experience, then they will invest with you again. And then what you want is to become somewhat viral, right? You want an investor who invests with you, and then you want them to say, oh my goodness, Jerome just gave me this crazy return, and now I want to go tell my friends about it. And then those friends say, all right, well, let me go see another one of Jerome's investments or whatever it is. So that's what you're looking for. That's how to snowball. So investor, depending on the quality of the investor, they may start off with a relatively small check at first, and then you may see that check get bigger and bigger. But none of that happens if you do not give them satisfactory returns. So today we'll be talking about preferred returns, what they are, how they work, should you use them, should you not use them, and a whole lot more. So appreciate you joining in here with me today. For those who do not know who I am, the name is Jason Stubblefield, that is, and I have been investing in apartments since 2016. If you are able to share my screen right now, you're probably looking at another photo of me, which seems very conceited right now. But anyways, you gotta know, right? So where am I at right now? This is snscapitalpartners.com. That's Sam capitalpartners.com. Here you can find out more about my company, more about what we do, some of the deals that we've done, some of the investors who have invested. If you have to be watching this and you are interested in hearing about our passive investment, you come right over here to the Invest tab, and that will bring you to this wonderful form right here, right? Just a few questions for you to fill out and answer. You answer those, we'll have a conversation, put you on our list. Now you can hear about the opportunities as we bring those deals out. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into to the preferred return conversation. And so it just started off like, what is a preferred return? What is it? How does it work? A preferred return is really giving preferential treatment to an investor or an investor class. And you say, well, what do you mean by that? It's where we're going to carve out a portion of money, and we're going to allocate that to a section of investors. So you're saying, hey, these investors right here, maybe it's all of the investors, or maybe it's just a subset of investors, they're going to get a preferred return, preferential treatment when it comes to the capital and the amount of returns that are kicked off from this investment. And this is only relating to cash flow. So this does not come into play until cash flow, right? So the bank is sitting in first position. You've got Mr. Chad Green, who is a loan officer. You got him or some loan establishment that he's connected you with, and they are in first position. So the first money goes to them, and what's left over is what we're talking about today, right? So now you got your cash flow, and from that cash flow, what are you going to do with it? Who's going to get what? How do you divide it up? In a preferred return, you're going to take some of this money and you're going to give it to investors based on a certain amount. So let's go ahead, hop right into it, go to the whiteboard because I'm visual and I want you all to be able to see this. Do you understand how it works and the differences that it makes? So let's tee it up. And as I'm bringing this up right now, I also want you to talk about the fact that there is you don't have to do preferred returns. There are deals that don't have preferred returns in them, and we'll talk about those as well so you can have something to compare this to. So let me go ahead and bring up a handy dandy whiteboard right here. Let me switch my pen around. All right, can you all see the screen? You see the whiteboards? All right, I got thumbs up. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and hop into it. So let's say we have a deal that kicks off $10,000 a month, okay? So $10,000 a month is our cash flow. So we'll put these big items over here. We got cash flow of $10,000. All right, so we all see that. And that's per month. Okay. Yeah, come here. So we got 10,000 per month in cash flow, and that is $120,000 a year. Okay, in cash flow. Now, what we're going to talk about is how we're going to divide that up. So this is what's happening with our property, right? That's the money that our property is kicking off. And say that to get that, we raised $1 million of capital, right? So our investors combined for $1 million. So we raised $1 million, we put it into a property, and now that property is giving us $10,000 a month or $120,000 a year. So everyone should be following me. That is this picture cash flow, excluding all expenses, including reserves of CapEx. Yes, we are only talking about cash flow that is available to be distributed to the investors, right? So we'll call this our capital base, right? So we had $1 million in capital, $120,000 in cash flow, right? So that's after the debt. That's not considering anything that we're going to do CapEx. So how are we going to divide this money up? Well, let's talk about doing it without any sort of preferred return. So usually you're just going to split the capital up with your investors in some way. And let's just say for this instance, a very common one will be like a 70-30. So we're going to have limited partners that I'll abbreviate as LP, and we'll have general partners that I'll abbreviate as GP. Okay, so the limited partners are going to get 70%. And we're going to have our general partnership, which that will be you. If you are the person who's operating the deal, you're going to get 30%. And so with this in our example, all right, we'll go ahead and extend this all the way down here, the workspace. So that's going to be true for both sides. But in this 70-30 split, we got $120,000 that we make a year. So we'll bring that down here. We got 120 grand, and we're going to split that on a 70-30 basic. So 70% goes to the limited partners. How does that look? Limited partners are going to get, that would be 70%. That's $84,000. Someone correct my math if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. And then our general partnership, they're going to receive 30% of that, and that would be 36,000. So, all right, appreciate you. The math is correct, right? So that's how that deal looks. It's very basic. You can do this 80-20, 85-15, 50-50, whatever, however you choose to split the cash flow up. Just understand the goal is that your investors are pleased with the amount of money that they're receiving from this. So what happens? Here's what I've done. You've gotten a deal. You know what the owner is asking, and you may say to yourself, the deal doesn't work off of a 70-30 split. My investors are not going to be attracted to this deal because the returns are too low. All right, so what are you going to do? Well, you can change it by splitting the equity, right? So how does that look if we came over here, and in this example, we'll have the same thing, but we're going to do it with preferred. Sorry, I'll write my pref over here. So this is going to be our preferred return example. So we're going to do the same thing, but we've got this $120,000 of cash flow. But now we're going to take 7% and we're going to give it to our investors first, right? That's what we mean by preferred return. So before the general partner makes any money, 7% is going to go to the limited partners as a preferential treatment, right? You can't make any guarantees in this business, but you're telling them, hey, you're going to get the first 7% of this deal. So in the same $120,000 example, now we're going to take 7% of the total capital raised, right? So this $1 million right here, we're going to give them 7% return on that first. So how does that look? Well, 7% of $1 million is going to be $70,000, right? So we're going to take $70,000, and the first $70,000 of cash flow is going to go to the limited partners. That is their pref, okay? And I'll put this in parentheses. We'll call that a pref. Everybody follow me, okay? And so after that, we've got $50,000 left. Okay, so we got our 50 grand. Now, what are we going to do with that? Usually, you're just going to follow the same process of your 70-30. So now we're going to take our limited partners, and they're going to now get 70% of the remaining cash flow, which in this instance will be 35,000. Okay. And then the general partner would take the remaining 15,000. So right there. Okay. So that goes to the GP. So what does my limited partner total, right? So LP total in this instance is going to be, what do they get? They got the 35,000 plus the 70,000 pref. So in this instance, limited partners receive $105,000. That's messed up on me. Come on. So they've got there we are, $105,000, and the general partner got what was left, which is the 15 grand. Okay. Right. So are we following that? So look at this. This is a clear distinction right now. In our first example, no pref. Our limited partner total was only this 84,000. That's all they've received. In the second example, the limited partner total was $105,000. And this is how you can make a deal that may not be attractive to your investors more attractive to the investors by doing this preferred return method. And a lot of times in a competitive market right now, I don't know if we have any passive investors on, but I have invested passively, and honestly, it's a criteria, right? For me, right? I want to be in a preferred position when it comes to investing passively. And you may find that some of your investors are. Now, that may not be the case. If you got your investor base, maybe you work with them before, or maybe you have relationships with them, or maybe you just meet them brand new people off the street and you do your deals and they work off of 70-30. That's fine. That's how I did my first multifamily syndication. It was just a flat out 70-30 split. You can do it like that. But you also want to know about the preferred return method, because it could be advantageous to you as you're looking to make deals work. Structuring this way, right? We took a very significant upside, right? We took a whole lot more capital and we put it towards the limited partners. So two things you should note from this too, right? One, you're going to make the limited partners return better, but two, you have to understand what you're working for if you are operating, right? So now as a preferred return, you may say, I have a great deal, right? But now, do I want to own this deal if I'm only making X amount of dollars? And, you know, if you're dividing a deal up by 90-10 or 80-20 or whatever it is, it's got to make sense for both parties. It's got to be a win-win for both. And if it's not, then you simply just don't do the deal. All right. So let me go in here. Let me check the chat. Let's see what's happening. Math is right. Are these representative numbers, or is this is just an example, right? I mean, it's the basics of how every preferred return deal would work, but this is just an example for right now. So are they sharing in the upside? Yes. So it did not talk about what happens after this, right? We only spoke on cash flow. Typically, and this is where you have to learn as a passive investor to read through your documents to see what's happening with the flow of capital afterwards, right? So does this 70-30 split and in the 7% pref, does it remain throughout the deal, or do sometimes things change? So it could be a 7% pref up until a certain point, right? And this is where you get into the term you would call waterfalls, right? Or investment hurdles. And so as a general partner, you may say, all right, well, based off these numbers, you're going to get, say, a 15% IRR or something like that. And say up to a 15% IRR, we're going to do it on 70-30. But if we go above a 15% IRR, all the capital above 15% IRR is now going to be split on an 80-20 or something like that. Or actually, that's the wrong way. You probably go more like 60-40, right? So what did I just explain to you? It's mainly, as a general partner, you could say, I want more of the cash flow, the better I do for my investors. Right. And so that's really what you're saying. And you structure that out through a waterfall method. Say, this is the basic structure. But if I hit you certain hurdles, if I get you this certain IRR or this certain cash on cash, then I want to be entitled to more. And that's how you'll see deals structured as well. And you may choose to structure your deals that way as an operator. What we do on the split is however we split it, it remains the same afterwards. So afterwards, meaning like this happens if we're doing a sale, this happens if we're doing a refinance, this happens through any capital transaction where we are going to maintain the same level of equity percentage on each deal. Okay, so if everyone's all right with that, I'll sort of move on. All right, so Jim alluded to this and what happens. And one of the things that you want to watch for when you talk about preferred returns, especially if you're investing passively, or if you're doing this as an active investor, is the flow of capital. How does this capital actually get distributed? And so in our example, you saw that the general partners were working for it was $15,000 in cash flow. And so with that, these deals are going to have some fees associated with them, right? There's going to be fees, and that may be asset management fees. It could be acquisition fees. It could be disposition fees, whatever it is. There are some fees. So when you're looking at these deals, you want to know what happens to those fees and where do they align in this flow of capital along with the preferred return. So what could happen? Let's just say there's a asset management fee, ongoing asset management fee. The preferred return could be structured so that the managers receive their fee first, and then we do the preferred return and the 70-30 splits, right? So we understand that. Let me bring that back up just to make it clear again. So I'm going to need to expand this to get the full. So in this example, right, we had the $120,000 that was going to get split. So what you want to see is this deal is going to have fees associated, and what you want is, well, what you want depends on who you are, but I'll tell you how we structure our deals, right? So we put our fees underneath, right? So our fees are inserted here, right? That's a terrible arrow, but you get where I'm going with that. I don't even know what I'm doing with this now. But the fees are inserted right here, right? So after we do the split. But what could happen is that you have fees that sit above this split, okay? And so the fees are inserted here. I guess I did. So you would say we got $120,000 cash flow. Now there may be $10,000 of fees that go to the management team, and we're going to take those fees and they're going to go to us, and then everyone else is going to split $110,000. And you see how that could affect your returns. So if you are investing passively, or you're looking how to structure this deal, you have to decide how do you want to do it. Now, what we do is that we will structure our fees so that they come in afterwards. And so I just feel like being a good fiduciary of other people's money, you should not get paid until you have fulfilled on the, can't say promises, but you fulfill, you try to make good on your word. And if you tell your investors, I'm going to get you 7%, I'm going to try to get you 7%, then you want to try to get to that 7% number first, and then you can have your fees on the back end. Also, you have what you call catch-up clauses, right? So what you may have is those fees, and maybe you're an operator and you are, let me shut this down now, get back to just basis of friends and family here. But if you are an operator, you may say, hey, I didn't make any fees. I didn't take any of my fees on the first year or 2 years or whatever it is. But now that the property's doing what better, I want to be able to catch up on those fees. Or maybe you don't take any, but you sell the property, and now you're able to participate in those fees. You say, all right, I'll get those fees on the back end of the property. But as a passive investor, as an active investor, you want to think about this. You understand the structure of what you're saying here. These should be put out there, right? So being, let's see. Also be absolutely certain your investors understand the preferred return is not guaranteed. If the numbers don't come in as you expect, and you've told your investors they're getting an 8% return, you can't pay them. And you can't pay them, you can run into problems. Jason touched on this in beginners, never ever use the word guaranteed. Yes, absolutely. So as you're getting started in this business, there isn't any guarantees. And if you ever invested and you read a private placement memorandum and you went through the section of risk, when they told you all that, they made it absolutely clear that none of this is guaranteed. But you want to be consistent in your communication, at least try to be, to say, hey, this is the preferred return, this is what we're going to try to get. And when they get to the private placement memorandum of documents, it'll say that, hey, none of this is promised, this is all speculative, but we want to do our very best to try to get you these returns. So that's preferred returns, how they work, how you can be able to add more juice, right? You can be able to get more juice to your investors by inserting a preferred return. You can also get more juice to yourself by doing some sort of waterfall structures. And we could do another webinar just about waterfalls and how they work, but just understand that you can do no preferred return at all. And really, in my experience, what this is boiled down to is just the how good your deal is, right? If you got a solid deal and you can do it as an 80-20 or 70-30, and your investors can get quality returns, honestly, I think I don't see anything wrong with structuring a deal like that, right? With just flat 70-30, I've done it before. But if you got a deal and maybe the investors' returns aren't looking as good, you want to make it more attractive, then you can insert a preferred return to them so that more of the capital flows their direction. And hopefully that helps you do more deals, build that solid reputation, have your investors telling their friends about the great return they did with doing absolutely nothing. And outside of signing some few documents and reading the emails that you send out to them. But if you can do that, you'll build a thriving business and you'll have repeat investors. So just talk about next week, talk about splitting preferred returns. 50% capital stack is preferred only. The other 50 takes more risk and gets more upside. Yeah, that would be a good topic too. Diving a little bit further, right? I'll just take a couple minutes to talk about what Jim put in the comments, but you can dig a little bit deeper where we talked about preferred returns and that 70-30 split. You can actually carve that out, right? So in our example, we had $1 million of capital and we treated the whole $1 million the exact same way. You could actually change that and make $500,000 of that capital treated one way and the other half treated completely different. And that changes your returns too. So there's multiple ways you can split it. To leave that conversation off with, mainly, I just try to be as simple as possible, right? Because I think the real ability to raise capital is the communication that you have and the ability of your investor to understand what you're doing. So a sophisticated investor has probably seen plenty of those more complicated structures. An investor who may be looking at it for the first time may say, what's this hurdle? What's this waterfall? What is this, A-class investor, B-class investor, C-class investor? I see those deals come out too. So, but yes, there's multiple ways to carve that up. All right. So let me go check my Facebook buddies. Let's see. Don't look like we have any. Jim Young was commenting over there. Appreciate you, man. But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, complaints? All right. So as I mentioned before, snscapitalpartners.com is where you can learn more about me, my company, invest with us if you choose to. Also, if you're looking and you're trying to figure all this stuff out, if you are wanting to syndicate deals, raise capital, grow your portfolio, we got a program that's pretty nice that helps you do that. And you can just reach out to me and we can have a discussion. Other than that, I appreciate you all taking your time. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully you gain some value out of this Tuesday, and I'll see you all next Tuesday. We'll be right here with another multifamily topic and discussion. All right. See y'all. Take care.